Hello and welcome back to Hollowponds Solo Sagas. So today we are going to begin a new series. Today we're going to begin playing Forbidden Lands. Now we'll start slightly differently today because things will run slightly differently today. So today we are playing Forbidden Lands. Today we're going to focus on basically and sorry for those person, I can't remember your name, who I slightly triggered with my agile speak, our Sprint Zero, in doing our character creation and maybe a bit of world setup, probably not. And we will create our companion as well because we will be using the official solo guide rules, the official solo rules, written by Matt K, which you can find in the Book of Beasts is the first part of the guide, and the second part is in the Forbidden Lands solo expansion by Matt K that you can find on ttrpg. I will stick the link to both probably in the description. We'll be using a combination of both of those books to do our solo guide. Now, next, I need to warn you that I have noticed that when people watch these videos, that when they hit the intro, people drop off. Now, some people have complained about the use of AI in that intro. And so for now, I've just cut that bit off and sort of juggled the musical track a bit and try to make it work. It's not perfect, but it gets rid of that and it's a lot shorter. So let's get into creating our new character to play in the Forbidden Lands series now. See, that's heaps shorter and it comes a bit jarring. I need to fix it up. If you are good at doing stuff like that and you want to do it and you want that on here, then send me something. So, Forbidden Lands. Now what I'll do, I'll tell you now, so my normal way of approaching solo play is I read the rules of play, how you roll stats, and because it's Mutant Year Zero from Free League, there's not much differing. Now the combat seems to be a bit more complicated, there's various other skill bits that seem to be a bit more complicated, but that was all cool. So I read that. I read cursorily character generation, cursorily magic. I'm not massive on magic, so I don't normally read the magic systems in depth. I then went to the GM's guide and I read basically about the world and about the processes and how the monsters work. I do not know the history, and it seems like it's a very thorough, very deep lore history of the Forbidden Lands. I haven't read that in depth. I need to read that. But my philosophy of solo play is the more you know about that, the less discovery there is. So I like to read and discover the lore as I go. The one difference you'll get with me is Cyberpunk Red, because I know the Cyberpunk 2020 world lore backwards and forwards. But I need to learn that for this. So we are approaching this with a very basic intention. So chances are we will not be rolling the most min-max character there is, but there is some stuff that I think it would be wise for me to lean upon as a solo gamer. So let's turn to page 15 in our very exquisite Forbidden Lands Player's Handbook, and we will start to go through our process. So first off, we've got choose your kin. So I think as the kin that I will rely upon, because there seems to be quite a complicated background for various non-human kin. Even the human kin, it seems the history of how humans came to the Forbidden Lands is quite complicated. I haven't got into the history, for instance, how the Red Mist. So do you know the Forbidden Lands? Are you aware of the Forbidden Lands? Let me give you a little bit about the Forbidden Lands then. Maybe I should have done that earlier. So the Forbidden Lands is a fantasy role-playing game produced by Free League Publishing. It's slightly different. It's set as an explorative sort of Western Marches type game to start off with. You're given a map, a hex map, with various little sticky labels you can put on, and the aim is to be slightly less labour intensive for the GM to generate because it's an exploring game, so you can randomly roll stuff every session and just come up with stuff. So it's quite well suited for solo play. The basis is you are not a hero trying to change the world, and the what was it called in D&D? Points of light. So you're not points of light. What you are is you are someone with itchy feet. the red mists came up around, and so I don't know wholly about this, but you grew up in a village, you grew up in a place where you were isolated. You couldn't travel very far because red mists were inhabited the land, and anybody caught in the red mists would die. So you were trapped within your village or within the close confines around your village. So people who like to, so for instance, I grew up in London and I now live in Australia and I'm planning to move to the Netherlands. I don't like staying in one place too long. If you were one of those people in that village, you'd want to go exploring, you'd want to go visit once the mist has dropped. So that's what this is. This is a game of exploring, of treasure collecting, of building up your own story, of, as it says in the box, rogues and raiders. You're not a hero as such. You are a person who is out to try and discover the world. You are a tomb raider. You are a discoverer of treasures. That's what you were doing. So we have a map, which we would be, if I can find a map to put up, I'll put it up. Otherwise I won't put it up just yet, because we would be exploring the map, because we don't necessarily know what the whole of the map is. So we will be generating a character who has wanderlust, wants to go walkabouts, wants to see what's going on, and a companion to keep him alive. So I would say human will be our kin. So there is an alternate method for rolling characters. We won't be using that now. If we die, we will use the alternate method to generate somebody. Our companion will take over the primary, we'll tweak the companion, and then we will generate a new companion for the companion. So our human has a key attribute of empathy. There are 4 attributes: strength, agility, wits, empathy. Standard type of free league. We use talents within Forbidden Lands, and the human has the talent adaptive. Standard thing for humans, they get the adaptive type of talent base. Basically they can turn their, jack of all trades and master of none is the human. So that is our human, we have our kin. Next we need to pick our profession. Now the profession we will pick is going to be from the Forbidden Lands solo expansion, which is the Explorer. We're going to pick the profession, which is the Explorer. It's a new profession created by Matt Kay to help as a solo player. That cut was me realising I needed a deck of playing cards, and my current deck of playing cards, the only one that I really have easily accessible, is actually tied up in a game of the Electric State at the moment, which you can see me playing up there. And so, because that is that deck of cards is basically permanently used for the Electric State, you don't reshuffle it. I have no spare cards, so that was me ordering some on Amazon for $4. They should be here tomorrow. So we now need to choose our profession, as I just said, and we are going to choose the Explorer. The Explorer is basically as it sounds. So you are, and I thought that then goes well with being the solo player and also the moving around the environment. Your key attributes is wits. Your skills are move, scouting, lore, survival, insight. We'll go through those as we go. And we also have the guide gives us suggestions for a good companion profession to pick. In this case, the Explorer would have a fighter, a hunter, a rider, or a champion. Basically someone to do the heavy lifting, it sounds like. So we might lean towards a fighter or a hunter as our companion. So our Explorer. I also picked a name, Taylene. That was from the human part of the kin. Okay, we've got our profession. Decide on our starting age. Now, although I according to this table, am old, 51 plus, I'm going to think that Taylene may be young and Taylene's companion may be older, maybe adult. Taylene is going to be on the younger side. Taylene will be 24, let's say 24, which comes out as a young adult. Being young, we have 15 attribute points, 8 skill points, 1 general talent. So next we then spend points on our attributes, and we do that by splitting our attribute points between those 4 attribute skills, where we have our Explorer has a key for wits, our human has a key for empathy. If we assume that our companion is going to be a fighter type, we can have the fighter having the strength and agility. We will go for the wits and empathy. But first, I'm just going to look up how you defend yourself. I think we are going to lean towards wits and agility, because wits gives us lore, so we can know about things before we encounter them, survival and insight. And agility gives us marksmanship, we could use a bow, stealth and sleight of hand, which might help us. Strength gives us things to do with melee combat and crafting. Empathy gives us things to do with manipulation, performance and healing. So although empathy would be useful, I do think high up on wits and high up on agility is going to help this character. It's going to help Taylene, as Taylene attempts to explore the Forbidden Lands and discover new things out there. One thing to mention is hit points is your strength score. So let's go 3 for our strength, 4 for our agility, 5 for our wits, 3 for our empathy. Then we get to spend points on our skills. Now, our skill points, we have 8, but because we are using the solo guide by Matt Kay within the Book of Beasts, page 165, we are advised to take 1 extra general talent and 2 extra skill points. So we get 2 extra skill points, giving us 10 points total. So what I've decided to do is I've spread, so probably I've spread a bit thin. As I said, it's not going to be a min-max character. So we're going to have 1 in melee combat, just in case we get trapped into that. 1 in stealth to try and avoid it altogether. 2 in marksmanship, because as we said, we will see if we can get a bow and be more ranged. 2 in scouting, to see if we can avoid getting into a conflict with someone in the first place. 2 in lore, so in case we do come across something that we want to explore, that we understand what's in there. 1 in survival, so as we can find things to survive and we can set up camp properly. Hopefully that gives us, I mean, we're not very good at dealing with people, though we do have a reasonable empathy at 3, but hopefully we can survive getting through things. Our agility is 4, so our base moves roll will be okay, but hopefully we've got enough to get through just being alive. So once we've done our skills, we now do our talents. So our kin talent is adaptive, which we will start at rank 1. Our profession talent we can choose from Path of Navigation, Path of the Diplomat, Path of Lore. So the 2 that seem interesting to me is Path of Navigation and Path of Lore. So basically what this is we will be avoiding populated places apart from to go and restock. And apart from that, we'll be spending a time on our own in the wilderness. It also means that we need to do, as a solo player, less role-playing conversations with ourselves. And although I enjoy doing that, maybe we'll just be one of those wilderness people and we'll talk to our companion mainly. So because we're an explorer and we will be encountering things upon the map, the Path of the Lore sounds interesting because it means that before we go into an adventure site, we can pre-roll on some of the tables to know what's inside them, because we've heard about this place in a rumour or a story or a song, and we know about it because we pre-roll on some of the tables instead of rolling as we enter and only discover as we get inside it, which sounds good. But first we have to get into the hex where that thing is. That's where Path of Navigation comes in handy. Now, when you navigate within Forbidden Lands, because the lands are so wild, it's easy to have a problem when you're moving around the hex. Now, moving, like every other Free League game, you split the day into 4 sections and you pick what you do on each day. One of those things can be pathfinding or leading the way. Leading the way with the Path of Navigation means that you can spend a will point to automatically succeed on that roll, and if you fail, you can decide to spend that will point after the fact to automatically succeed. Because if you fail in leading the way, then you will have a mishap. Something bad is going to happen. So rather than have something bad happen out in a hill, it'd probably be better to have that happen in lore. So we are going to take Path of Navigation as our professional talent. And lastly, we have our generalized talents. Now, as I said, because we are using the solo guide by Matt Kay, it advises in the Book of Beasts that you take 1 extra general talent. And the extra general talent it advises one of your talents is lucky. Lucky will mean that when you suffer a critical injury, you can re-roll once. So we are going to take lucky at rank 1. Now, our second general talent, we can boost one of our other talents into rank 2, or we can pick a fourth talent. So for Path of Navigation, at rank 2, we can find our way in the dark by spending a will point. For Luck, at rank 2, we can reverse the D66 roll for a critical injury. And Adaptive, I haven't told you about anyway. So Adaptive means that when we are about to roll for a skill, we can spend a will point and then we can use any skill we like to do that roll instead of the skill that it should be. So for instance, when I am going to do a melee attack on a person, I could spend a will point using Adaptive, and instead of having the one skill, which I have in melee, I could then say I use Agility Marksmanship, and I can say that I need to explain that. So I can say, I am aware of the wind directions, I'm aware of the terrain movements, I'm aware of the heat in the air, and my sword moves swiftly to the right point because of all of those factors, and I roll 2 dice instead of 1 dice, as an example. There are no ranks in Adaptive, that is just Adaptive. Now, because of not wanting to get hit, I think I might take Fast Footwork as our final general talent. Fast Footwork means you are fast and quick on your feet and hard to hit in combat. Rank 1, you can dodge for free once in every round of combat. The extra dodge doesn't count towards your actions in that round. So dodging is a quick action. It's like a standard, you get a quick and a slow action. The quick action of dodge uses your move. We don't actually have any points in move at the moment, but we do have a reasonable agility of 4. But if we get an extra dodge in that round, we can dodge for free, and then we still have a quick action left to dodge or do something else, which might be useful. I also might switch around some of these points a bit. I'm going to take one off of Law and put that on Survival, and one off of Marksman and put that into Move. No, one off of Melee and put that into Move. So instead of having one in Melee, we're going to put one in Move to help us with the dodge. And instead of having 2 in Law, we are going to have 2 in Scout and 1 in Law, because Scout, leading the way, that Pathfinder role, that is a survival role. So we're taking Fast Footwork. So hopefully we're creating somebody who is aware of their environment, who is able to explore the wilderness and will not die in the first combat, as a lot of my characters seem to do. Next, we've done our talents, so we determine our pride. So what a pride is, as I said, you are a special sort of person. You aren't just happy to stay back in the village and live your life. You want to go out and explore. You want to be something. You want to gain treasure. You want to gain something. You want a name. You don't just want to know what's here. You want to know what's over the hill. And part of that is your pride. And so every character can take a pride, normally based on their profession, and the profession will give you 3 suggestions, but you can use others. And once per game session, if you fail the roll, you can invoke your pride, and you explain how, using your pride, you can get an extra dice roll. You then can roll a D12. Now the D12 will give you extra successes. The D12 is called the legendary dice, and it will give you successes based on what you roll. There's a little table on page 50 to help you if you don't have one of the custom dice. I don't have the custom dice. And for that, on a 6 and a 7 on the D12, you get 1 success. 8 and a 9, you get 2 successes. 10 and 11, you get 3 successes. At 12, you get 4 successes. Now, that's fine using your pride and getting those successes on that D12. But if you were to still fail that roll and you had invoked your pride, you would lose your pride. And for a whole game session, you need to play with no pride, and then you have to try and select something new as your pride. So We have 3 choices as an explorer for our pride. 1, you can make friends with anyone. You're proud you can make friends with anyone. 2, you never lose your way. And 3, I've seen all the traps a ruin can throw at you. I think you never lose your way is one that we could use in multiple ways, because we can use you never lose your way even within a ruin or within an old site, a site of lore, that we don't get lost. We have a sense of direction. So we're very proud of our sense of direction, and we never lose our way. We've always been able to get back to the village, and we never ever get lost. Next, we choose a dark secret. Now the dark secret is really a narrative tool rather than the pride, which can then have a mechanical benefit. The dark secret is something which has more a narrative gearing behind it, mainly to be used by the GM, but we can use it as part of our solo process and to drive our story, as I discuss in creating immersive characters, which was probably last week. We want to have parts of our character which may not necessarily be so good, a flaw. So Taylene has a flaw, the dark secret. We have 3 suggestions under Explorer. You are terrified of ghosts. You've never actually discovered anything, it's all an act. You're looking for a specific site of the Raven Sisters. I think we have never actually discovered anything. We've been out into the wilds and we've come back and told stories of things we've found, but we haven't actually found anything yet, and our companion doesn't know this. That's our dark secret. Next, we have gear. So our character sheet has gear on it based on our explorer profession. We have a staff or long spear, 2 items from the trade goods, D10 silver, resource dice. We have a D8 for resource for food, D8 for water, D8 for torches. So how the resource dice work, to remind you, we've got a D8 in everything. How resource dice work is every time we eat, every time we drink, every time we use a torch, we roll the resource dice, a D8. If we roll a 1 or a 2, then the resource dice will drop to its next value, which is a D6. If we roll a 1 or 2 on the D6, we've run out of that thing. If we go hunting, so we try and make torches, or we buy torches, each unit increases the resource dice by 1. So we could go hunting for food and our D8 could become a D10. We could go collecting water, our D8 becomes a D10. Or we could consume it and it goes down. So the resource dice means that we don't have to track individual units of a resource, we just roll that resource dice. So we have a D10 silver, our first dice roll. 7. So we have 7 silver. We also have 2 items from trade goods. So what we'll do is we're going to take 2 lots of iron-headed arrows as our resources, which will give us a D8 resource dice in arrows. We are going to take the long spear that we get from being an explorer, and we're going to trade that for a short bow, which will cost us an extra 2 silver, which will take us to 5 silver. We are also going to look at armor. So we've traded our long spear for a short bow and spent an extra 2. We've got our 2 lots of arrows. We will spend 1 silver to get a quiver, which is light. So that means the quiver doesn't encumber us, and we have no encumbrance when it comes to carrying the arrows. And we will spend our final 4 silver on some leather armor. The leather armor is also light, so that means our short bow and our leather armor only takes up 1 encumbrance slot. Our armor, which is leather, is only covering our body. We can find things and then attempt to learn how to craft. Our crafting is not great, but we can try and do it. Our leather armor gives us an armor rating of 2. Armor is the standard way with year 0. You get a number of gear dice for the armor equal to its rating, 2. You roll them. For every hit, it decreases the damage by 1. For every 1, it decreases your armor rating by 1. When your armor rating drops to 0, your leather armor is destroyed and you need to repair it. You can repair things. So So for instance, to repair the leather armor, we would look and see what it takes to make leather armor. To make normal leather armor would take 2 lots of leather. So we would probably have to go hunting for 2 lots of leather. We would need someone with the tanning talent to be able to tan the leather, to be able to make it into armor. We would also need a knife, a needle and thread, and then we would spend 1 day making leather armor. So we have our leather armor and we have a short bow. So we have our name, which is Taylene. We will take the explorer nickname Sightfinder, Taylene Sightfinder, because Taylene has told people that she has found things. We will think of how we want to describe Taylene after the fact, and I think that's where we will leave it today. We have our finished Forbidden Lands character, our explorer, who is human, who is new to the Forbidden Lands, as we are as humans. We have decided on our skills, our equipment and our talents, and we know that we never get lost, and we're proud of that, and we know that we haven't actually found anything yet. Our Taylene is quite young, and we will now, behind the scenes, and I will introduce you next time to where we will start our adventure and to who will be our companion, who will probably be a fighter, as Taylene has the bow for range combat. Thank you very much for joining me for this. Hopefully, if you are attempting to play Forbidden Lands solo, this will help you with generating a character, and if you will understand it, and you'll have the books with you anyway. Thank you very much to the members of the Adventurers Guild for all of your support in becoming members of the Adventurers Guild as it is, by clicking the member button down below and joining the membership. The whole thing of asking you to subscribe, I don't know whether that actually even helps. If you'd like to subscribe, do hit the subscription, you get to see more, but you know that anyway. And that's about it really. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time, where we will begin to explore the Forbidden Lands. See ya.